When we think of World War II, we often conjure images of Hitler and the Holocaust, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor resulting in the United States joining the conflict, the invasion of Normandy, and the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. War is a horrific thing that impacts lives both abroad and at home. The history books usually detail the larger events out of necessity to capture the scale and scope of the war. While this is important, it often leaves smaller stories of the families back home untold. The pain, the choices, the sacrifices, and fallout of being dragged into a war they didn't start. The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan takes place in Malaya, which is now known as Malaysia. It tells the story of a Malayan woman named Cecily and her family while under British occupation and the transition to Japanese occupation. The story jumps back and forth through a 10-year time period between the two occupying countries. The book alludes to the horrors of war through hearsay and rumors, but focuses on the oppression and impact done by the occupying administration and the individuals living in that reality. The book begins by introducing us to Cecily, who is a stay-at-home mother to 3 kids whose husband works for the British occupiers in a comfortable administrative role as a local. Cecily has grown bored of how her life has turned out. She doesn't feel content being a homemaker and feels pretty restless. She also can't stand how her country is ruled over by the British. Her husband and many others have bought into the idea and propaganda that European and even Eurasian traits are the way forward. It's during this time that she meets a Japanese spy who's posing as a local merchant. He asks for her help with getting information on the British administration, and she can do this by spying on her husband during meetings held at their home and stealing paperwork from his office and then passing it along to the Japanese government. At first, Cecily is thrilled and exhilarated by this. She feels like her life actually has a purpose and she's able to fight back against the occupying Europeans, making her feel like a freedom fighter. She also begins to realize she is developing a deep infatuation with the Japanese spies she's working with. The Japanese spy gives her real power for the first time in her life, and he enraptured her with his talk of Japan's vision of an Asia for Asians, not Europeans. When the book skips forward to the time period in which Japan is now occupying the country, it looks nothing like what Cecily imagined or what the Japanese spy she was falling for promised. In many ways, her home is much worse. People are being forced to work in dangerous manufacturing plants, children are disappearing or being sent to labor camps, and food and work is scarce. Cecily has to watch her country fall apart while reckoning with the fact that she had a major hand in making this happen. She knows she's responsible for her family and community falling to pieces. That's all I'll say about the main plot of the book, so I don't give too much away. The narrative does an excellent job at portraying the horrors of war and occupation from the perspective of the people trying to live their lives in their home country. The story is both horrific and heartbreaking. It did make me cry a little once or twice, and it does a wonderful job of conveying loss, despair, and hopelessness through the perspectives of Cecily and her family. The book explores some pretty intense themes like colonization, racial identity, sexual desire, while using war and death as a backdrop. There are some scenes of brutal violence, sexual assault, and trafficking, but they are used masterfully to paint the full picture of the helpless and hopeless situation many people find themselves in because of war and being under an occupying military. Overall, The Storm We Made is a wonderful book that I highly recommend. The occupation of Malaya is a chapter in history that I didn't know much about, and this book does a wonderful job at portraying what it might have been like for people who were forced to live through the occupation of 2 countries while a world war was being fought. The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan comes out on January 2nd, 2024. So if you're looking for a good book to start off your new year, I recommend you check it out.